lesson is called rational numbers. When you see the word rational, a lot of times that means you're going to be dealing with fractions. It's got the word ratio in it, which often refers to fractions. You should have learned to simplify fractions in previous years. 5/10, I'm pretty sure you all know, equals 1/2. Here's the process, though. Think of all the things, all the factors of 5 and all the factors of 10, and find the largest common factor. So you divide by 5 over 5, which equals 1/2. Again, I would expect most of you knew that one right off the top of your head. The greatest common factor for this one happens to be 16. I'm not sure that all of you would have come up with that. 16 divided by 16 is 1, and 80 divided by 16 is 5. So your answer is 1/5. I'm betting a lot of you would have come up with this. If you divide them both by 8, you're going to get 2 over 10, which then can then be divided by 2 over 2, again giving you 1/5. Either way is fine. If you can come up with the greatest common factor first, it'll save you a step. This one has 18 and 29, and there really aren't any common factors there, so it cannot be simplified. So your answer is negative 18 over 29. I think you guys can figure out that the greatest common factor here is going to be 6. So we'll divide by 6 over 6, giving us 1 over 5. You know that your fraction is completely simplified if there's a 1 on the top. There doesn't have to be a 1 on the top, but if there is, it can't be simplified anymore. You should recognize 18 and 27 as both being multiples of 9. We could divide by 9 over 9, giving us 2 over 3. Another clue that you've simplified it as far as it can be simplified is if these two numbers are consecutive, 2, 3, one right after the next. Here we have another example where the numbers share no common factor except for 1, so it cannot be simplified. So your answer is the same as the question, 17 over negative 35. Our directions have changed now. Instead of simplifying fractions, now we're going to change a decimal into a fraction, and it does need to be in simplest form. So here's how you do this. We'll keep our negative. Simply read this decimal properly. The proper way to read that is not 0.8, it's negative 8/10. We say this digit right here, and then we name this place value. So it's negative 8/10. And then we need to simplify that. 8 and 10 share a factor of 2. Don't forget your negative. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our answer is negative 4/5. I'm hoping that some of you recognize 8/10 as 4/5 and that that's automatic for you. Okay, again, we're going to change the decimal into a fraction in simplest form. The whole number part's going to be the same, so just write it as a whole number. And then read the decimal portion correctly. That says 37. Name the last place value, which is hundredths. So it's 5 and 37 hundredths. 37 and 100 share no common factors, so we cannot simplify that fraction. It's already simplified. This number's a little bigger, so it's a little tougher to deal with. We've got 0 and 622. You just read that, 622, and then name the last digit's place value. This is tenths, hundredths, thousands, so we'll put 1,000 here. You can tell that both of these numbers, 622 and 1,000, share a factor of 2. So let's go ahead and divide by 2 over 2, giving us 311 over 500. And you may have to do some guessing and checking to find out that there are no common factors other than 1 for 311 and 500. So that's our final answer there. Okay, we've got negative 0.4. That 4 is in the 10th place. So that can be written as negative 4 over 10. And we'll simplify by dividing by a common factor of 2, which will give us, if we divide by 2 over 2, that'll give us negative 2/5. That 5 is in the hundredths place, so 8.75 is equal to 8 and 75 over 100. We can simplify by dividing by 25 over 25, which will give us 8 and 3/4. Hopefully you guys already know that 0.75 equals 3/4. All right, the numbers are getting a little big and unwieldy to simplify, but here we go. That 5 is in the 10,000ths place. So this can be written as 2,625 over 10,000. Tough part is simplifying it. The greatest common factor here is actually 125. If you divide both top and bottom by 125, you will get 21 over 80. Okay, we have another change in the directions here. We're going to write the fraction as a decimal. This one can be a little bit painful if you're not allowed to use your calculator because you have to do long division. You simply divide the numerator by the denominator. So you put the 11 on the inside, put the 9 on the outside, and do your long division. 9 goes into 11 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. Subtract, and you get 2. If you have a remainder, then you're going to need to add a decimal point and a 0. Bring down that 0. Do 9 into 20 goes 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. Subtract, and you get 2. This decimal point needs to be moved right up into the answer here also. Bring down another 0, and you can see that the same thing is going to happen. 9 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. That 2 is simply going to repeat. So our answer is going to be 1.2, and we put the bar over the 2 because that's the part that repeats. So that's a repeating decimal. You just pretty much do the same thing here. You do numerator divided by denominator, so 7 divided by 20. 20 goes into 7 0 times. Subtract, and you get 7. You're going to have to add a decimal point and bring down another 0. 20 goes into 73 times. 3 times 20 is 60. Subtract, and you get 10. So you still have a remainder, so you have to keep going. So you bring down another 0. 20 goes into 100 exactly 5 times, so there is no remainder, and your answer is then a terminating decimal, which means it ends, and the fraction 7/20 is equivalent to the decimal 0.35. So that requires a long division problem to accomplish that. Here's another one, numerator divided by denominator. Numerator goes inside, denominator outside. Go ahead and work through the long division. When you get a remainder, you have to add a decimal point and bring down a 0. Continue your division. We still have a remainder. And then you can see that the same thing is going to happen again because we had 60 here, and if you brought down another 0, you'd just get 60 again, and you'd keep getting 6s, okay? So the correct answer is just going to be 1.6 continuous with the line only over the 6. So that's called a repeating decimal. And we're going to write this fraction as a decimal, working through the long division. We have a remainder, so we have to keep going. Still have a remainder, bring down another 0. Now it looks like it might be repeating, but let's see. Oh, it doesn't seem to be the same thing happening here. And finally we get to the point where we have no remainder, so we have a terminating decimal for our answer. So just because you have two 2's here doesn't mean it's going to be repeating. You kind of have to go a little farther and see. So 9/40 is equal to 0.225. Here are some problems for you to try on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and then come back to check.